Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Just My Thoughts. I woke up in a mood to make a video this morning and still kind of foggy though, so might be a little off for a second. But plus, I don't know, I might be coming down with something. Feel weird and know the little foggy. Anyway, um, so I wanted to talk about type twins, right? This might be a little heavy on the objective personality nomenclature, but I'll try to explain it as I go for those that not doesn't really know it. Um, so you have your type, all right, your exact type. Like you can have, like I am ESFP, but you can have different kinds of ESFPs, right? So you have um, the standard ESFP, they're SEFI. Then you have the jumper ESFP. That's what I am. That's we are SCTE, right? And basically, if you're a jumper, what that means is you're jumping, you're going first function, and then you're jumping to your third function instead of going first function, second function, which is the standard. Uh, some people just are like that. I don't have an explanation for that, why that is, but that's just what it is. So your type twin is your exact type, right? So you have whether you're a standard or a jumper of that particular type. Then you have your animal order, which dictates sort of how introverted or extroverted you are. And then there's also your sexuals, which is like, are you double masculine, double feminine? Are you feminine masculine or masculine feminine? I know I'm going into a lot of unnecessary detail, but I'm just showing you that there are variations between particular types. Okay, so recently I've been trying to study my twin types. There are not very many. I'm actually kind of a rare type, so there's not very many that I could find. And I found one particular young lady. Um, well, one, she's female and I'm male, so that's usually a big difference in how personality goes, just from like you got a different kind of body and then interacting in society. Male typically usually certain things attract male, some things attract female. It's not to say that it can't be vice versa. Just there's interplay in there. Also, she's younger than I am, so you gotta take that in consideration too. I haven't had a chance to actually talk to her. Well, I haven't actually talked to much of my twin types actually, but I couldn't find much on her. I'm going to try to establish some kind of communication, but as of now, there's been no communication. Also, I found another guy named Michael. Um, I could relate to him. Um, he's younger. Um, I could relate to a lot of the issues he was talking about, like having difficulties sort of interacting with people and sort of like not understanding why people do certain things and people don't understand why he do certain things and a lot of little integral things. I very much related to him. I reached out, but I haven't gotten any kind of response from him. So I don't know. And there's another guy, Daniel, who is not a twin type because technically he's a standard and I'm a jumper, but we're very close otherwise. Our types is extremely close. I've talked to Daniel, super cool guy, nice guy. If you look up, I want to say it's Poseidon on YouTube, like that's his actual page. Um, Daniel seems like a cool dude. Talked to him for did like a live chat with him. Unfortunately, wasn't able to record it, but we've spoken and super nice guy. Sorry, there we go. Super nice guy. A bit more intense than I am. He also leads with emotion, where I lead with thinking. So there's that. But that was the one thing I took away from talking to him was we were very similar, but he was a bit more intense than I was. Oh, also because of the switch, right? So because of me being SETE and him being SCFI, that leads to switch to our crap. I'm forgetting what the technical term for it is, but basically how our functions lay out. So you're gonna have two kind of. All right, so I'm SETE. That makes me ST, right? Sensor thinking, and on the back end, NF, intuitive feeling, right? Because he's going SEFI, that makes him sensor feeling, which makes him NT on the back end, right? Intuitive thinking. I'll confess, I'm still working out NT, like intuitive thinking. I'm the only thing I can say is it sounds weird as shit to me. It being ST is like it has to be literal and correct, and I'm trying to get it as correct and literal in reality as possible, right? NT is not like that at all. It talks. NT is very different. It's like ST is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. NT is like 1, 10, 20, 30. Like it's just making so many gaps and jumps that when I hear it, it's hard for me to understand in a certain way, because I feel like I have to translate it. Excuse me. I feel like I have to translate it sometimes. So like sometimes, like if you look on my interview I did with Benjamin, which you can find in my playlist, featured on other channels. If you look in the description or whatever, you can find it. Benjamin was asking me some questions that Daniel had asked, and I was like, man, I don't understand what his question is. Even Benjamin, who was also ST, although a different kind of ST, he's SETI. He's saying that too. Like, I have a hard time understanding them. So I think it's just ST and NT just have a hard time understanding each other. But yeah, super nice guy. But his NT is difficult for me to understand, but I relate to him in a few different ways. But we are also very different, right? So, sorry, having my morning coffee. So, brings us to a guy, his name Habib. Habib, I have seen different interviews he did. He did a interview with Benjamin, which I really liked. I watched that interview like 30, 40 times. Just trying to consume any information I can get from him, right? And then he's done a video on Kendrick's channel as well. And Habib is the exact same type with the exception, right? All right, we're both jumpers. We're both got the same animal order. Our only difference is I'm double feminine and he's double masculine. So what that means is my saviors, SE and TE, are both feminine, right? And what this means is if you, whatever you have masculine, you tend, your saviors you do automatically, right? You can't really not do them. You try to incorporate your other functions, but your saviors you're going to do. It's like breathing like air, you know. So my saviors being feminine, though, I tend to lean on my masculine demons. Like whatever you have masculine, you feel a urge. Those are the kind of punchy parts of you. Like they kind of lean. You kind of lean into those things, right? You don't have a choice. It just sort of happens automatically. But so my masculines are NF. My FI, introverted feeling, and my NI, introverted intuition. This makes me very, very introverted. It's actually since I've learned this, this explains a lot about sort of like how nothing kind of hurts me. Like a friend of mine, we were discussing this, and he was kind of baffled. I didn't even notice it really, to be honest, until he would point it out to me from time to time. He was like, "Man, nothing bothers you. You're like super calm, cool, and collective. Nothing really. It's like nothing penetrates. You know, things that should make you upset don't seem to make you upset. You just don't. Nothing really bothers you, and that's the reason why. Because my introverted functions are masculine, so what that feels like is it's hard for anything in the outer world to make it through to my inner world. So if you try to insult me, a lot of times I don't even notice it, or even if you do, even if I happen to notice it, I can easily discard it. I'll be like, yeah, that's not true. Yeah, no, I don't feel offended. Like, I don't think I've ever been offended. A while ago, I was trying to even work out what does it feel like to be offended. And yeah, and the conclusion I came up with actually was being offended kind of comes from your inner not always, but a good amount of it comes from your inner world, like your inner functions, because you perceive. All right, I don't want to get lost in that. I like to go over that at another point, but anyway, I'm getting off track. So basically, my inner functions are super solid, right? Nothing really penetrates from the outside, which I consider a great advantage, but it's also a great disadvantage because I need to be able to rationalize things, and if something's wrong on the inside, like I'm having a hard time working through something, or I'm depressed, or I think something is horrible for me, or how I feel, or my state of mind, it's extremely difficult for anybody from the outside world to get through to me to help me change my mind. Basically, I'm on my own on the inside, right? Because anything somebody says, I have to be able to rationalize it to get it into my inner my inner I guess framework or whatever. And if I can't rationalize it, which if I'm feeling the opposite, it's really difficult for me to rationalize it. It's hard for anybody to penetrate. Even when I want to get that information in there, it's hard. But anyway, so me being devil feminine, my introverted functions are masculine. My extroverted functions, the ST, are feminine, right? For Habib, it's the opposite. His extroverted functions, his ST, are masculine, and his introverted functions are feminine. Now this is interesting, right? Because you have to look at how the functions are linked. Your thinking and your feeling are linked together, and your sensing and your intuition are linked together. So, excuse me. So, where my feelings are masculine, his thinking is masculine. And my feelings are introverted, his thinking is extroverted. So, where I'm looking on the inside to make my decisions, like I have TE as well, so I have to consider other people, but I really only consider other people when I'm interacting. Like if I'm doing something and it's going to affect somebody else, I have to consider that other person, right? Because what I'm doing is going to affect them. But if I'm doing something for me or something that's only going to affect me, I'm not considering other people. Whereas I think it's the opposite for him. Like he's always considering other people, and he might not be considering himself as much, which sucks because sometimes I fall into that zone as far as prioritizing like my own time. There are things that I want to do that are really important to me, but because I have Savior TE, I have to prioritize other people within that, and a lot of times my own things end up being pushed to the background. But anyway, so he's masculine thinking, which, and he's also got masculine sensing, where I got masculine intuition. So having masculine sensing is pretty cool in the sense of you have a pretty good memory. Masculine sensory, especially I think SC, supposed to be really good as far as timeline. Like they can, it's not a 100% every case, but depending on how good you are, I guess you're really good at remembering dates. You can remember like, oh, this happened this year, on this day, this month, But either way, you're really good at remembering information. So like, I'm shitty at remembering information, like knowledge. I got a kind of shitty memory. He's got the opposite. He's got a pretty good memory in that way. Where I'm good, where I remember the concept, right? So I can't remember the details as much, but I can remember the concept, and without going into it, because I know that's very vague. That's got its own cool things. Like I'm liking that. I wish I had a better memory for the details, but I really like remembering the concept. That works for me a lot. So yeah. But yeah, seeing him have the double masculine thinking, having the masculine thinking, I'm like, man, that's a very useful weapon in your arsenal. And looking at us I can see the differences, right? So, financially, he does pretty well in his field. It's not really financially. I'm sure he does financially, but I mean, he's a pretty smart guy. I'll say it like that. He seems like a pretty smart guy. Um, and he's I don't know if he's at the top of his field, but he's doing really good in his field, right? And I can hear like his explanations for stuff. I can tell like, all right, yeah, it's a pretty smart guy. Having that masculine thinking is very efficient. Um, so yes, I'm actually kind of envious for that, but at the same time, I wouldn't trade it for my masculine FI. But I'm still somewhat envious. But it's interesting because I see the differences, right? So the FI is the identity function. There's FI and there's TI, right? If you have one, you don't have the other. So both he and I have FI. FI is the identity function. So it's interesting. The one thing I really remember noticing when I saw his different interviews, one with Benjamin and one was Kendrick, was in each interview he had a drastic, I consider drastic, a very different haircut, right? I mean, like almost at first I was like, wait, is this the same guy? Because like one he had one haircut and the other one he had like this like full long beard and super long hair. It was like I wasn't sure. Like I was like, is this the same dude? So there was that. I remember that stuck out, right? But then he recently started making videos on his own page, and what struck me was his haircut was once again very different. So, hold on, let me change the power here. I don't want this thing dying on me. Sorry, I had to unplug my mic, so hopefully the audio difference isn't too horrible. I'll try to lean a little closer. So, the difference, what are they talking about? The hair. Oh, crap. The difference in the masculine TE and the masculine FI, right? So I was thinking, I was like, this guy has different hairstyles. And then I thought about it, and I was like, I've had the same hairstyle as far back as I can remember. Like, since the very beginning, like since I was a little kid. I always rocked the fade. And then when I got older and I was able to, I grew a beard, and that was it. And it never really changed. And I was like, seeing him change, so often, it's like, that's interesting, and then, like, having a masculine, extroverted, thinking, you're more susceptible to the outside world and the influence, as opposed to having a masculine FI where you're more susceptible to the inside world. I suspect that was very much due to outer influences. But recently he did a benchmark video where he's talking about his 2 years as like kind of growing through the objective personality system. And I was watching it and struck by how different our videos are. So, if you've been watching this, or if you're watching this now, you can see my videos is very off the cuffs. Like, I want to be 100% authentic. I don't edit anything. This is for me. I'm basically trying to get you a peek inside my mind, right? I try not to say anything too offensive if I can catch myself, but I'm really bad at that. Apparently, I have issue. I have a hard time. I seem to offend people no matter what I say, which really sucks because that's definitely not my intention to do so. But it's something I've been having an issue with. So, and so that's my video, right? It's 100% kind of raw. When I watched his video, I was struck by the difference of he edits. I can see like different edit cuts where he has stopped and started recording. Like you can see how he edited out this part and that part. And excuse me, like this part and that part, and you can see the different cuts. You can see like he was very paying attention to his lighting and stuff. Like he was very concerned with the presentation. All right, extremely concerned with the presentation, and I was struck by that difference. I was like, oh, okay, all right. So he is considering the tribe, like how are people going to see it when they see this. I want to present a good picture to the tribe, and like even things I can see him kind of like, all right, well I don't want to say that, but let me say this, and I'm just like, wow, like I can see a lot of editing as far as him editing himself not to say certain things and do certain things, which I'm like, all right, that's interesting. I might even have some of those thoughts, but I'll just dismiss it. Like, no, this is who I am. This is what I am, and these are mainly for me. But I hope other people can get something out of this if anybody else watches. But yeah, I don't really alter it for anybody else. So I was like, huh, that's very interesting to see our differences on that matter. Yeah, it's little things. There's a lot of little nuanced things that I see. So, yeah. He has a similar vibe to me. Like, he's kind of calm and cool, as opposed to like say like Michael, who seemed more upbeat energy wise, you know, super high pitch. I mean, I shouldn't say super high pitch, but a lot more go energy. You know, I think I have more of a mellow, chill energy, which Habib seems to share, or at least on his videos. I'm not sure how he would be in person, but at least on his videos, he seems to have that same composure. Trying to think of what else. I was actually looking at our facial structure because though everybody of the same type doesn't look alike, you know, you have to take genetics into a factor. They said that when you zoom out and you start getting into the hundreds, like several hundreds of the same type, you will definitely see similarities, like same physicality, same facial structure a lot. Typically even like the same thing. So like if there's a tattoo, a lot of times the tattoo is very similar among them and stuff like that. So thinking about that, I was trying to see if there was any physical characteristics that were the same. Actually, I might be able to pull it up on my phone. But I was looking, and I actually think there's some similar characteristics, right? You guys made that out. So I think we look somewhat similar. Obviously, I'm black and he's Indian. But if you look, there is a similar head shape, like as far as like the cranial and like how the jaws kind of flare out. He has a slightly more pointed chin. Not that you can really see because I got a beard at the moment. But the facial structure is similar. It's very similar. We also have the similarity of the lips and even the hairline structure. Although I think his has a slight more peak to it than mine. But mine does peak as well. So our hairline is very similar. Um, our nose is different, but it's interesting, right? I was just like, huh, it's very interesting. Like seeing the different and the similarity features. Um, when I was a kid, back when I had to go to church, and I used to think about, I used to contemplate God, right? Before I left church, I spent some time thinking about God, like trying to decide how I felt about it. And one of the things I used to do was I was like, well, if there's a God and I die and I got to see God, what would I ask God, or what would I do, or whatever? And one of the things I wanted to know was, if there's a God, I used to read a shitload of comic books. They came out with the multiple reality um, theory. Although science has apparently backed this up, there's a take this with a grain of salt because I've not gotten deeply into this, but to my own surface knowledge, there's an infinite number of universes, and everything that can happen on these universes does happen. So there it means there are different versions of me doing the same thing but slightly different, and then drastically different things at the same time. Um, so what I would want to ask God was, could I see 10 versions of me just to see what my different outcomes could be? How different, how differently I would have played out if I'd done things differently. And God, that knowing what I know now, that's such an observer thing. But I am who I am. What can I say? What is on my nose today? But yeah, so that's somewhat how I look at my type twins. Obviously, they're not me. I don't want to sound crazy or anything like that. I don't believe they're me. But I think there's a nature versus nurture factor, and nature would be the functions, and nurture would be your environment and your parenting and things you got to experience in life, and how you see yourself, etc., etc. So my twin types to me are the closest I can see to other versions of me. So being that, looking at Michael, very different, but I was very different when I was younger. I was a lot more caught up in the play and just kind of all over the place. So I don't know if I was like him, but I will say I was very different when I was younger. Looking at Habib, he's more interesting to me because I feel like he's more closer to what I am now. So like comparing myself to him is very interesting. Just to get a comparison and see how we're different, how we're similar and stuff. And to me, that's kind of like the closest I can see to another me or alternate version of me or something like that. So yeah, even I kind of feel similar with Daniel as well. But yeah, just the whole concept is very interesting. Very interesting. Right. So it's interesting. You could have somebody the same exact type and be drastically different. Because even though you have the same functions and you're interpreting information similar in the exact same way, but because you have different upbringing, it affects who you are as a person, right? So, like, let's say take somebody like Donald Donald Trump, right? Donald Trump is a double masculine ESTP. He has a feminine inner world and a masculine outer world. He's very pushy. Anybody, I mean, if you've seen Donald Trump, you can see this guy is super pushy. Um, Although kind of ridiculous at the same time. And I don't know what his animal orders are, but there's the actor named John Berthal, I think is his name. He's like the guy that plays the Punisher. He was on. He's really known for the Punisher. It's a really good series on Netflix. But he was also on like Walking Dead. I think that was his first big thing. He's been in a lot of stuff. He was an accountant. He's been in a lot of stuff. Really good actor though. Same exact type as Donald Trump. Nothing alike. Nothing alike at all. So just goes to show like you have the same functions, same everything, but your nurture is very different. You know, Donald Trump grew up rich. He's coming up in a very different environment. So not to mention, I don't know, whatever issues or things he influenced him or affected him or whatever. But my point is to go that even if you're the same exact twin type, you can be very different. Even like if you're familiar with the Community, you probably heard of Odom, British guy, seems like a really cool guy, pretty smart guy. Odom and Chris, they're both INFJs, exact type twins. They look nothing alike, right? Nothing, not even close. But then, if you look at Andrew Tate, which most people on the internet these days know who Andrew Tate is, Andrew Tate is also, if I'm not mistaken, he's the exact same type as Odom. No. He's not the same type as Odom. Odom has masculine SC and masculine TI. Andrew Tate has masculine SC and masculine FE. So they're slightly different. But if you look at Andrew Tate and you look at Odom, they look very similar. Like, it's super scary. Like, I'm like, holy shit. Which, if you look at Andrew Tate, he's a very unique looking guy. But if you look at him and Odom, or at least to my eye, they look very similar. Like, different brothers. Which is interesting. It's very interesting. Anyway, just trying to point out some of the similarities and differences and that kind of thing. Hopefully this episode wasn't too much on the nomenclature, but I feel like it was necessary to explain things. So yeah, that's interesting. I also want to do a episode or like a NF concept that's been coming to me. So hopefully look forward to that soon. Yeah, but thank you all for I don't know, my mom's probably the only person who's actually watching this. But to anyone who watches this, hopefully this is somewhat informative. Hopefully you're enjoying this peek inside my mind, and please don't be too judgmental or too harsh, because these are my unfiltered thoughts, but they're thoughts. Like, you can't kind of, I don't know, other people feel differently, but to me personally, you can't hold a person's thoughts against them, because one, you don't control your thoughts, and two, I have the kind of personality where I'm going to explore my thoughts. It doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to act on them or anything like that, but I do a lot of thinking, so I explore a lot of thoughts. But anyway, just I'm trying to do my best to give you a look of what's what are my thoughts on things and a look inside my mind, or at least the closest I can get to it. Uh, just try not to be offended. Again, I offend people without knowing it. I'm trying to fix that, but yeah. So I don't think that's as much of an issue for people who have masculine, like a masculine DI, like a masculine introverted decider. I don't think that they get offended very easily at all, actually, like myself. Um, but for people who don't have that, they're more susceptible to like the outer world, um, which I think these are the people I keep offending. Um, just try to be more understanding. Like people, people might offend you, but it doesn't mean they're trying to. It doesn't even mean they're aware of it. Just, I don't know. It's so weird to me. Like, not, not. I'm not trying to be judgmental. Like, oh, that's weird. But I mean, it's weird from my perspective. It's unusual. I say it like that. It's unusual because that's not how I work. So, seeing somebody else, it seems unusual to me. But yeah, people. It's like they hear something and then they just, much as I hate this word, I guess it is appropriate. They get triggered. As soon as you say something or something, they, oh my god, like I can't believe you said that. But like, it's only words. It's only a thought. I don't know. It's just a difference. It's a very different thing when you have a masculine DI and a feminine DI. Because if you have a feminine DI, that means you have a masculine DE, which means you're going to be more susceptible to outer influence. Very much. It's just sort of like being on different ends of the scale. This is I'm discovering recently with the modalities. Masculine DI, such as myself, the outer world, whatever. Like, I'm strong on the inside. You can say something, think something. I'll consider it, but you're not really gonna change my mind. I have to consider it and then be like, maybe they got a point, maybe not. But I'm not offended by anything you say. Masculine DE, on the other hand, they just hear it, and it seems like it can hurt them more. I don't know. They're more susceptible to taking in that information. Like, where for me the information comes and I have to filter through it and be like, yes, 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 you can come in. No, you cannot come in. Yes, that information is accurate. That sounds good. No, that information sounds false. Whereas for them, that information is coming in, I think, a lot more, and it's harder for them to block it. Like, no, don't come in. Yes, come in. And I think that's what kind of offends them or triggers them, because it's something that they don't agree with or whatever comes in. Yeah, that shit pisses them off. There's a reaction. That's my working theory at the moment, because that might not be explaining it exactly accurate. But from what I'm seeing, that's kind of close. Again, I'm still figuring these things out. I'm an observer, so I'm always looking, trying to figure things out, I guess. But God, I'm channel changing so much this video. Yeah, so I'm just saying, if you have a masculine DE, try not to get offended. I realize that I probably sound like an asshole to you for even saying that. And again, not my intention, but I'm just trying to give you something to think about. Like, I've come to the conclusion, you cannot change anyone's mind. You can only give them something to think about. And if they think about it, maybe they change their mind, maybe they don't. You know, so I'm just trying to give you something to consider. A lot of times, you really have to consider the other person's perspective. So, I don't know. I will say, I don't know a lot of people with masculine DI actually, or at least that I can tell. It's not that I know everybody's DI or DE, but the people that I talk to on a regular basis, all my close friends and associates, there's only one person I think has a masculine DI besides myself. Everybody else seems to have a masculine DE, which I think is why I'm offending the shit out of them unintentionally. It used to be only with my wife actually, but now it's gotten to the point where I'm triggering everybody, and well, that's partly on me. I mean, if everybody else in the world is crazy, you're the one that's insane. Like, if I keep triggering everybody, there's obviously an issue with me, and I have to address that. I'm trying to address that. But yeah. All right. Anyway, about 46 minutes in, so let's just go ahead and call this the end before I channel change again. So, all right. Thanks everybody for watching. Hope this was somewhat interesting. All right. Until next time. Peace.